Okay, thank you to all the candidates. So now we're going to go into questions, and these questions come from the PSAC and their members. And so I will read those questions out, and there is a random selection of letters here, and I'll be calling on each of the candidates as we go. So the first question is about jobs. So I'll start with a preamble, and then I'll ask the questions. In their latest budget, the federal government announced yet another program review, this time government-wide, with a goal of cutting $4 billion from the federal public sector and reducing department spending by 5% in the next few years. The outcome of such a review could only be severe cuts to public services and decent jobs. So there are two questions. The first one is, what is your position and your party's position on such significant reduction of program and operational spending? The second is, as a federal public servant, what assurance can you give my family and I that it won't be my job that gets cut? And again, this is coming from PSAC members. So I will ask for Kris to go first.
So the cuts that we're talking about here to the public sector that the Conservative government is looking to implement began quite a long time ago. They began under a Liberal government caught up in a fad for new public management that turns government less from a public service into a transactional creature that treats citizens as customers and not as citizens with rights and responsibilities as well. This glosses over the notion of the public good that the Green Party of Canada is very proud to stand behind. As a party, the Green Party of Canada is not inherently against the idea of big government for its own sake, but we do recognize that the downsizing of public service and the civil servants is largely counterproductive, as the government will often be forced to seek advice from outside in the form of privatization. Our plan includes $15 million in the federal budget for increased hiring of scientifically literate and knowledgeable staffs for Departments of Fisheries and Oceans, Department of the Environment and Health Canada to help increase their competency, which allows them to feel and to speak truth to power, which is one of the primary motivating factors for all of the civil service, and a responsibility that Canadians take very seriously. Their ability to look to the government and to give them that truth, that knowledge that they have based on their experiences. The Green Party is strongly opposed to the privatization of government. The public service is a vibrant and healthy part of Canadian society, one that attracts our best and our brightest, as it should, and it should have the capacity to retain and motivate those employees with all measures that we are able to provide them. The Green Party of Canada will work to ensure that Canadian public service remains a central pillar of Canadian society. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Gordon Earle.
When the Harper government, as it's so like to be called, made its announcement of cutting $11 billion, they spoke about it in terms of reducing wasteful spending. But we know that quite often that's a code term for reducing the size of the civil service. And having been a public servant practically all my working career, I know that this can be very stressful for people working in the public service when they hear about reviews and cutting of services. Quite often the first thing that comes to their mind is contained in the second part of the question, their own particular job. Are they going to lose their means of livelihood? Also, people who are working in the public service are very dedicated to providing the services that the public needs, and they feel some sense of almost betraying the public when they have their services cut. So we certainly would not condone that kind of activity. We would want to strengthen the public service and to make sure that the public service is in a position to properly serve the public through proper resources, through proper support by the politicians, as well as by the public at large. And the time card has gone up, so I'm going to stop so I won't go over. Thank you.
And lastly, we have Derek Wells.
We didn't see the preamble in advance, but as I understand the proposal by the Conservatives, it is to cut $11 billion over 4 years. And we know that they cannot cut $11 billion without cutting programs and jobs and cutting them substantially. So I'm concerned about what the cuts will do to programs, to services, and to public employees. The 2010 budget called for cuts of $300 million, and they've only been able to identify $110 million from which to cut. They can't find where there would be waste in the public service to cut more than that. So if they're unable to make the relatively modest cuts of $110 million, how are they going to find $11 billion? I mean, that's incredible when you think about it. They're going to gut the public service. With respect to assurances to public servants that your job is not the one that gets cut, I think the best bet to do that is vote out the Harper government. We know their agenda. The agenda is very clear. Our agenda is laid out very clearly in our platform, and in 2 minutes we can't lay it out, but we do believe that government can be and must be a positive force in the lives of its citizens. We will work with the public service. We'll work with its members. We'll work with their unions and management to develop and implement concrete service standards. We have a very professional, worldwide, respected civil service. Let us keep it. They do good work. Let us not gut it. And as I said, if you don't want to gut it, don't vote for the Conservatives.
Okay, so our next question is a hot topic of this election. It's pensions. So only 1 in 4 Canadians is confident that they will be able to save enough to live comfortably in retirement. Whether you have a workplace pension or not, I believe that everyone deserves the right to retire with dignity. The questions are, how will you and your party commit to protecting and enhancing the public pension system? And the second question is, what concrete measures will you put in place to safeguard the federal public service pension plan? And so first, we will have Gordon Earle.
Thank you. Well, we recognize that pensions are very important, and we feel that unfortunately far too many Canadians do not have a pension in place to protect them in their later years. But we will work with the provinces to bring about increases to your Canada or Quebec pension plan benefit with the eventual goal to double the benefits that you receive. We will work with the provinces to build in the flexibility for you and your employer to make voluntary contributions to your individual public pension account. And we will amend federal bankruptcy legislation, and this one is very important, to move pensioners and long-term disability recipients to the front of the line of creditors. When their employers enter court protection to declare bankruptcy, we've seen examples where, and I think of the Nortel workers and others, when the company goes bankrupt and these pension benefits are lost to the employees. The New Democrats are committed to protecting public pensions and helping seniors in need. The Conservative government, led by Stephen Harper, initially talked about beefing up the pension plan, the Canada Pension Plan, but then they seemed to withdraw from that and talked about RRSPs serving as a major portion of an individual's pension planning. But we know all people cannot afford to purchase RRSPs, and we also know that the RRSP system channels money, administrative costs and everything into the private sector. And this has been a part of the Harper government's movement, is to privatize everything and to devolve itself of any responsibility of caring for pensioners, seniors, and those in need of assistance. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Derek Wells.
Okay, the first part of the question was about the enhancing public pensions, and then of course then we're going to get into the public service pension. So they're two separate issues, and as you said in the preamble, 75% of all private sector employees do not have a registered pension plan. And that's why part of our platform, we agreed to work with the provinces and territories to gradually expand the Canada Pension Plan, which is the most reliable, simple, and low-cost way to save for retirement. We also want to enhance the guaranteed income supplement. I mean, it's very important that we look after our most vulnerable seniors. In the last Conservative budget, when they were proposing a small increase, I think it worked out to less than $1 a day for our most vulnerable seniors. Our proposal would be to substantially enhance the guaranteed income supplement. I think that's a must, and I think we need to look at our most vulnerable, and that's one of our primary platforms. We also had to work with the workers who've lost their pensions through the recession and make the corrections and adjustments where possible. I mean, we did have many private sector pensions that were hit badly by the recession, and some of these workers are only getting maybe half or less than half of the pensions that they were expecting to get under retirement. That's a substantial blow for that group of people, and it's important that we not forget them, that we work with them as well. With respect to the public service pensions, the best way to secure our public service pensions is by sound fiscal management, so the money is there to protect those pensions. We need to spend money wisely as a country. We have to get our priorities right. We cannot be giving $6 billion in corporate tax cuts using borrowed money. That's not sound fiscal management. That's not how you secure your financial strength as a country, and that's not how you protect the pensions. We cannot be spending $13 billion in mega prisons for unreported crime. That's not good fiscal management. That's not how you protect your pension system. Thank you.
Pension reform in this country is going to take place not through privatization, but through improvements on a system that's already proven to work. And that system is the Canadian Pension Plan, the Canada Pension Plan, or CPP. It is a proven system that is the envy of countries all over the world. And we in the Green Party of Canada believe that only through strengthening this system can we truly fix the systemic problems that plague it today. 35% of older Canadians are dependent on the guaranteed income supplement to keep themselves out of poverty. The current CPP objective of 25% of an average industrial wage is entirely too low. The Green Party of Canada would work towards establishing a 50% income replacement ratio that would dramatically replace the reliance on GIS and help keep elderly out of poverty and reduce the cost of GIS that the Fed picks up annually than it doesn't need to. Maximum pensionable earnings should be raised to at least $90,000, and consideration should be given to raise the registered pensionable plans from $122,222 in 2009, pending a review in a decade's time. I agree with Derek on the federal pension plan idea. In my opinion, this is very much a leadership issue too. Very little will get done on solving the crisis in our pension plans unless we know that there's leadership on this file. If people know that the Prime Minister has an interest in this, if people know that Cabinet is working on this, then something will get done. And in my opinion, that's just not happening now, and it won't get solved until it does. Thank you.